Good morning, everybody. Those who don't know me, I'm Tammy Skrzynski from Grayslake Library. And I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is February 18th, 2026 at 10:01 a.m. So the first order of business is approving the minutes from last meeting. Can I get somebody to motion for that? Anybody can.
Can you say your name and library? It's as far as Mount Prospect. Motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Lauren from Park Ridge, second.
Okay. Is there anything anybody would like to add to the agenda?
Anita Santoro from Lake Villa. Should I just say it now? So we had done a survey of patrons at my library, and we one of the things people were talking about were we don't have new things right away, but we were just thinking that possibly they don't know when something is still on order because it's not been released yet. And is there a way to add release dates to the records? Because you can see that stuff when you go on bookstore websites, you know, that this hasn't been published yet. Whether that's something we do as a group or if that's something that is done automatically through download of data, I don't know what's possible, but it would just be a nice thing to have. So, my question.
Is that something we could put in preliminary records?
There's nothing that says you cannot put a release date in preliminary records, so it's up to you. Do you want to add information to it? I haven't heard of that. If the question was if there was a way to put a release date in on order records because patrons do not know when a book will be released.
I know that sometimes we'll see in I think it's a 263 field, the month that something is going to be released. I don't know if that's just like SIP records that show that, and I don't know if they'll show in our catalog. I guess it kind of depends, I guess, on where the preliminary record is coming from, but that is something that does exist. I just don't know if it'll be visible to our patrons.
Get the conversation started.
Okay. It's something we could add to the scrap meeting to discuss at the next scrap meeting.
I do want to point out that the release dates that we get from the vendors are not necessarily the actual release dates. It really depends on the publisher, and there's a lot. So you can have people coming up to your desk saying, this says it was supposed to be released, but it wasn't.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead then and turn it over to Molly.
Don't forget to check the chat messages because there's been a bunch coming in on this release date bit.
Yes, thank you. I was just checking that right now, and I'm going to look through those and read them out really quick before we get started. So it looks like we've got Kathy mentioned that this is not something that's going to come through in a vendor mark. And Kit said, I only support release dates in PDRs. It shouldn't be in the final fully cataloged record. And could we suggest it as optional rather than mandatory? as well as then we need to update records if the release date changes, release dates aren't consistent. And again, that release date should only be optional in PDRs. Under no circumstance should they be in the final record. So it sounds like this is something that we should bring to CAMM, Rachel, to discuss.
Yes, we can
Or
discuss it.
scrap, I'm sorry.
Scrap. We could also discuss it at the acquisitions technical group meeting.
Okay. So do we need to do anything else to get that added to scrap or to acquisitions?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Any other discussions, comments? I apologize for I'm a little like on autopilot this morning, so apologize for mixing up CAMM and scrap. Yes.
I think this has the potential to cause more problems than it solves because, as you said, dates change. So if they do, we're going to find ourselves having to go in to update the date in the preliminary data records or have people complaining that the thing didn't come out when it was supposed to come out. And these dates change all the time.
But Rachel, you did say that we don't have anything currently in the catalogers wiki that prohibits you from putting that in the record.
Right.
Any other, yes.
It seems like it would be a whole lot more maintenance than it's worth because if dates are constantly changing, then we need to constantly be changing them. Or if they're not going to end up getting released, then you have to be on top of that as well. Not that we're not already doing that, but it feels like it might be more of a thing that you'd have to constantly be checking on. And I know we already have a lot of work that we need to get done, but it might not be time effective to keep on top of a release date thing. That's just my opinion.
And you did have a comment in the chat that the release date might not be indicative of when we would actually receive the material from a vendor. So you could deduce that that would lead the patron to assume that the item was there, but it wouldn't actually be there. So that could be a problem.
At our library, we put the release date in a non-public note in the item record because we need some way to make sure that we're not, putting something on the shelf too soon. It would be really nice to have a dedicated field for that so that, I could run reports on it more easily. So that would be nice. But I do have reservations about displaying it to patrons. I have had patrons say, I've been on hold for 3 months. Why don't I have this? And it's like, well, because it's not released until next month. But on the other hand, we do have the same patrons who complain, this came out on Tuesday. Why don't you have it already? And it's like, well, various reasons, we may not have even received it. So I do think that it's a double-edged sword. And the fact that that information does change and it's not always correct, that also frustrate patrons.
Okay, and for the folks that are on Zoom, if you're having trouble hearing us, please let me know and we'll make sure to adjust the audio. Kit mentioned that release dates for books, media, etc. are extremely fluid, especially given that digital and physical release dates vary widely. So it does sound like something we can take back to scrap or acquisitions to discuss, but it sounds like there's varied opinions in the room on whether it would be useful or not for the patron. Being head nods. Thank you. Okay, so if there's no more questions, to that, and did we approve the agenda from, or approve the, yeah, for the minutes, okay. Okay, let's go on to our next, any additions to the agenda? So we're going to take just a few minutes for some group discussion, and this is not the only group discussion, so if you have other things that you want to discuss, please let me know. But I was asked to bring two different questions to the group. So our first question that I'm bringing to the group is about our meeting modality. So last year, we were tasked with being fully hybrid, and I'm so pleased to see so many people in the room today because we've been talking about whether having an in-person option was necessary or not. So I guess from the group, I'd like to hear, we will always be virtual. I think having that option is very important to be online because sometimes we can't make it due to weather, et cetera. But what about the hybrid modality? Do we want to continue that into when we, start the new year? Do we want to keep being in person and online, or do we want to go to just virtual? I would love to hear any thoughts or opinions about the modality of the meeting. Got one, I like hybrid on on the chat. Does anyone else have a general opinion, or we could just do like a hand vote if that helps? Yeah, so really, really prefer virtual, really like the hybrid, as long as virtual remains ambivalent about format going forward.
I like the hybrid. I feel like when people are in person, they're more likely to speak up than they are online, because if you were at any of the just purely online ones, they were really, really quiet. I don't feel like we had any kind of talk.
Okay. Yeah. So you said the fact that so many of us are here means that we like it as a hybrid option. Okay. Seeing a lot of head nodding.
I was just saying it's nice to put faces to names that we see online and maybe have an opportunity to meet one-on-one or just discuss things and just connect.
I agree with everything that everybody has said so far, but I agree we should have a hybrid option because if meetings are here, some libraries are considerably farther away from this building than others. So for some people, it's a much larger time commitment than it is for, say, our library, which is not that far from here.
Would we want to consider just having virtual in the colder months? Like maybe I would say February, but now it's almost 60 degrees outside, so.
I mean, I think we should consider just based on weather, if, the day of or the day before there's possibility of snow or whatever, we could, take a vote or somebody could just make the call that it should be virtual, just for safety's sake.
There's one chat that says thoughts on group officers. Do they need to be in person to serve? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm looking at Rachel. Do our officers need to be in person to serve, or can they be online as well?
I don't know the answer, but with there being a chair and chair-elect would be able to step in if the chair couldn't.
I will formally ask that question to CCS admin and see if there's anything that we need to consider with that. But I also don't know the answer. Anybody else? I really appreciate you guys responding and giving us some feedback on this. I think it's important for us to revisit this from time to time. So sounds like for now we're going to stick with hybrid, definitely for our May meeting, and then again for the fall meeting. And then we'll see with the weather and everything going into the winter if maybe we want to do one virtual if the weather's not great. Although the way it's going now with 65 degrees in February, might as well just come out for every meeting. Okay, thank you. So my next question is also a discussion. It's based on a request that we got from Rails. So we have been requested, all of the LSAP libraries have been asked about our trainings through Rails. And if we want to see different trainings for cataloging or technical services, like what would we like to see coming out of Rails to serve our libraries? And that brought a question to us, which was, well, how are we doing with training for you guys at CAMM? And so I'd like to open the floor for any recommendations, anything you'd like to see training-wise, modalities of training, ideas for training topics. Hopefully this discussion can help us kind of drive any new training initiatives we do in technical services. Oh, sorry. Got a blind spot.
I don't have any recommendations, but I do like when, I think it's Rachel does every time LEAP gets updated, we have a webinar about that. So that's good because some libraries use LEAP to catalog and some don't. Some are still in the client and some use both. So it's nice to see what features you can do in LEAP, what you can't do still, which is unfortunately a lot. But I like those things. So those are kind of inclusive, and that isn't specifically for cataloging or technical services staff, but it's for everybody.
And in the chat, Karin put that Deborah did send out an email today about the Rails survey. So we are going to ask for some more information or thoughts on training modality or trainings that you want to see. Are there other?
I think it might be helpful to have a training / collab for people who catalog library of things items. That way the different libraries can try to see and maybe teach each other better ways to do it. So, but otherwise I agree, Kim, about the training you've had so far for general cataloging. It's always great with the updates, and Rails does a great program for people who are brand new to cataloging that I've had staff go through. That has been very helpful too.
And Kit, I don't know if you have your hand up or you unmuted if you wanted to say something. I didn't want to miss our online participants. Oh, sorry, Kit. Apologies for calling you up.
I have more of a comment actually, because I agree. I want to second the comment about the LEAP webinars with the new features. I find them very helpful, and I always do attend them, whether live or the recordings. But I do also want to say, and at least for this specific example, I don't know how soon the other webinar was announced. So, but if you could try to be careful not to schedule them right around the same time as Rails webinars, because I know the one on Tuesday is right back to back with the RDA training on Tuesday. Like this one, the LEAP one ends at the same time as the RDA one starts. So that's a little tricky. But like I said, I don't know how soon in advance they announced the Rails one, so I don't know if that's fair to ask that, but I just wanted to at least mention that. Because, I mean, there's so many changes to RDA, so obviously, you know, I would want to go to both, but just a heads up.
Oh, that's great. And we all can see our schedules on L2, so we can try to be more mindful of making sure that doesn't happen. So going once, going twice. Okay, so if you think of things, Deborah did send out that email asking for responses. Just thinking about even like, I may be speaking out of turn, but you know, you have some new staff, you want to have them like get more comfortable with CCS standard practices? Would that make sense for us to do some training in that regard? So just think about those sort of things. They don't have to be 2 or 3 hour long trainings either. It could just be like a 30-minute, 45-minute type situation, if that would be more useful for you as well.
I was actually going to bring something along those lines up for one of the next things on the agenda, the books about pagination. So some of those CCS practices, I did watch a lot of the training videos, and some of those CCS practices are not recorded in training or on the wiki anywhere, because I didn't know. I've only been here like 3 or 4 years. I didn't know that there was a preference for 1 volume unpaged. I usually use it, but it's like things like that that aren't necessarily recorded anywhere. It would be great to have those in the training. Thank you.
And I mean, they are in the wiki, but the wiki is such a big document that, yeah, for sure. But no, I agree. The wiki's such a big document. It's nice to have a refresher.
I'd like to add to that comment that sometimes there are things that come up, you know, at CAMM or other meetings that are about best practices, and it seems that they only really get recorded in the minutes of those meetings, but it's not possible to just search all the minutes. And I think if it were possible to search the minutes, that would be really helpful as well. Or sometimes it's just like, I have a vague memory, like, I think this came up before, but I can't read, you know, years worth of minutes.
I'm wondering, because I'm thinking about another project I'm working on, would it be useful in the newsletter if little things like that, where like a best practice or something was discussed and brought up in a meeting, if we could do a little like bite-sized blurb after saying like, hey, this was brought up and discussed, you know, here's how you get to that information.
Yes, yeah, like that would definitely be helpful, but also for the cataloger who joins 4 years from now. If it could be, because I had searched on the wiki for the word unpaged and it didn't come up with any results. So that's why I'm like, well, if it's on the wiki, where is it?
That's a very good point. Thank you.
Is the unpaged, 1 volume unpaged, is that a local practice or is that national practice? Because the wiki is specifically for local practices, right?
I think it's national, yeah.
Could we consider linking to relevant trainings from the wiki? So like if we're talking about a local practice and we have something in the local practice training, like link to that segment so someone can read it and then just pop out into the training if they're a visual learner?
So Kathy, you're saying in the wiki, could we, like wherever there's a page about library of things, and then link also to any training documentation or pages in the website?
Correct. And not just the training documentation, but the training videos.
Got it. That's a great suggestion. Just taking a quick note, I do see that there's some chats. A really good discussion. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so Jamie said there might be a misunderstanding that we'll discuss in a minute. I'm not aware that there's a preference, and that's something that I was going to jump in and say is the conversation's really ease of use. So we don't, and Rachel, please correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have this or that. With pagination, you could do one or the other if the pagination's not available. Is that correct?
Yes, but the issue was that it's just easier to say 1 volume unpaged rather than count every single page.
Yeah. And then Kit said if there's something not on the local wiki, of course, the next step would be to check the RDA, et cetera. We can't have everything in the wiki, which is a fair point. Yeah, so local practices should be in the wiki, which makes me think we should move on to our next item of discussion, which is books without pagination. So we had gotten a number of tickets about this, and the one volume unpaged instead of X number unnumbered pages in the 300 field. You can choose to do one or the other, but just a request. Some libraries are preferring to use the one volume unpaged so that when they receive the item, they don't have to count the pages and either put the number of pages in the bib or verify that that's the number of pages that are there. So that's how I'm going to start that update. And Rachel, I don't know if you have other things you wanted to add with that.
No, the issue is really that there's no need to actually count every single page because it would be hard for the next person to verify it. They don't necessarily have time to do it. So feel free to just say one volume unpaged.
I think the problem was, well, I think the reason I thought we had to say one volume unpaged is because I remember when I joined CCS back in when we joined in 2012, I remember we had to count. It was a requirement. And there was even an instruction page at the time on the wiki of how to do that, like where to start for board books, where to start for picture books. And now there isn't, which is also why I think it'll be harder to count them, because I know, was it the other day, I think someone had counted the pages in the OCLC record and someone had counted pages in our record and they were different. So I don't really want to spend time verifying which is which and the different start. Basically, so there's no more instructions for a standard of how to start counting on the wiki. So I think it would just be harder unless we were to go back to that. But again, that's an option. It's not a requirement, but just wanted to share that.
In a slightly related topic, could I just add a little bit about, I've been seeing an increase in records where there is a pagination, start pagination, that is wrong. And Kit has many times said, when I put it out in the listserv, he's been like, yeah, people just didn't correct it when the books finally came in. It was from preliminary records. So I know that sometimes books can have slightly varying pages, but if everybody could try to, especially if they're working with a somewhat new record, make sure that you do update the pagination.
And Rachel's getting the mic to our next speaker. Cassie in the chat said they seem to remember it's only required for young children's materials such as picture books and board books. And it said their recollection was the same. And to Tammy's point, it's not preferred to PDRs, it's referencing to pre-pub OCLC records.
Thank you for the clarification on the one volume unpaged. I was just going to add a tip for if you have a new book and the pagination differs from the record in Polaris. If you go to Amazon and check and see if the pagination in the brand new record in Polaris matches what's in Amazon, that's just publisher supplied pre-publication information so that it is okay to correct that, because I know if it's within 10 pages that's okay, because sometimes it looks like it's been cataloged. So that's a way to tell if it's garbage publisher information and not the actual pagination, is if it's on Amazon.
That's a good tip. Thank you.
Publisher information.
Kit responded that Amazon's page counts are horribly inaccurate. Just FYI.
So, the publishers, this is part of the problem with counting the pages for the kids' books, is the publishers, the paper. It's so, for most of us, at least me, okay, for me, it's got to have something on the page to be counted. I didn't count blank pages just because they were in there as paper. And that's the same reason that you have a kid's book. I've seen them 2 records because I'm doing deduping course. 31 unnumbered pages, 32 unnumbered pages. Like, yeah, I know what happened there. So if they're not numbered, I wish that we would stop measuring the height because they're all pretty standard. How about the width? How thick the book is? That'd be great. That's never going to happen. Thank you.
And then Karen followed up with, Ingram does have pagination for their items when you scroll down to the additional information and the physical info. I don't know if that's useful for Ingram customers. Which Ross followed up that it's also publisher pagination. So just putting it out there for the group, if especially children's books, unnumbered pages, there is no required local practice. So you can do 1 volume unpaged, or you can do the X number of unpaged pages, whichever you prefer. And then Jamie also followed up with approximately a number of pages is also valid. Yeah.
Michael Glenview. So it seems like the real issue is some catalogers are feeling maybe a little anxiety when they see this unnumbered pages and thinking that they have to count and verify that what's there. I mean, but this is just a number that's been supplied by the cataloger. It mostly happens with board books and picture books, and they are fairly standard in the number of pages that those things have. So if it seems reasonable, I would tell the catalogers that they can just move on and
Thanks, Michael. Okay. So next up, we have a request from everyone to please close your records when you're done using them. It's actually a very common ticket that we get. I've been waiting for this record to be closed for 4 hours. It hasn't closed yet. Could you please close your records? And so we can go in and manually close the record at CCS if needed. So if you do put in that request, we can do that. Rachel and I think we both have discussed, like, we don't do it right away. We try to contact the person and say, are you still working on this record? I'd like to close it. But if not, a certain amount of time goes on, someone else needs to use it, eventually it should be closed. I've got a hand and I've got a comment.
All right, Kim from Zion. I'm assuming this is LEAP. People all
places
and the client. Okay, because I know when we first went to LEAP, it was 99% LEAP, and it was usually public desk people that would have a record up for the new Patterson, and then they would think they closed it and they didn't, and they would go home and the record would be open for 5 days until they came back, and then so it's not that problem. Okay. Just clarifying. Is there a way for it to like time out and be like, oh, this record's been open? No.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know if Polaris has that setting, and we certainly don't have it set up that way. The comment that was put in the chat was, not to blatantly throw other library departments under the bus, but my experience is not tech services departments that are leaving the records open. So perhaps we can pass it along to PATH to also not forget to close records.
Or is there a way, the problem I have with LEAP is if you're not looking at something, you assume it's closed and it's still open. And so you can have 5 different records up, and unless you go back and close them, which is easy to do in the client because it's a pop-up and you can see it, LEAP, you can't do that so much. So is there a way to have a little flashing thing going, hey, you have stuff open, like a reminder, maybe?
I don't think
They have things
so.
like closed in the tab, because it goes into your tab, right, on the left, and then just stays there.
You would need to submit an idea to the idea exchange for that.
Or even when you sign out to be like, hey, you have these tabs open. Ideas.
And when you sign out and you completely sign out of LEAP and you disengage from the client, that record closes.
Yeah, but sometimes the objects are still locked, so it does, your object locks every 2 hours, but if someone still has a record open, then it's still considered open.
I had a question, this is Tammy, about the etiquette. Is it considered bad etiquette if a record is already open, a bib record's already open, and you've gone through it and you know it, pagination and the editor and everything matches what yours in your hand? Is it okay to just go over to the item record and add your item, even though the bib record's open, being edited by somebody?
Yeah.
So, okay, this is another thing for your training. Maybe we could have something about CC etiquette.
Okay. So the question was etiquette-wise, if a bib is locked, you have the item in hand, you check it, it looks good. Can you go ahead and add your item? There's no reason that you can't. Yeah. And I don't see any problem with that. Response, so we should also bring this to CERC. Kit said it's your item, so you should be able to add it. And then Kathy mentioned that not all staff sign out of their Polaris sessions when they have to leave. Does CCS have a protocol to close all open sessions at a particular time of day? I do not know the answer to that question. Oh, thank you. Do you know, Rachel?
We don't have a protocol specifically stating that. People should just generally log out when they're done.
Rachel, can I ask that the 7.8 or the 8.0 update, is there a cascade option in LEAP now, like there is in the client? Like, would it, you know how it builds the records on top of each other, or they,
no,
that feature hasn't changed?
That hasn't been added.
We will put in an ID exchange for that. Oh, we have a hand in the back.
One question, how late are CCS around to close open records if we need to get into them?
It was CCS ticket.
What would we say, 5 p.m.? Yes, 5 p.m.
I've noticed a lot that are open in the evenings that I can't get into, so that's
a good. Okay, so it sounds like we need to bring this to the other groups, remind everyone to be mindful of closing your records, and we'll bring this back to the bigger CCS team to see if there's anything we can brainstorm on making this issue less regular. Awesome. Okay. Another request is please don't forget to delete your record sets when you're done with them, just to declutter the database. Rachel, you run a process, right, to pull out record sets that have been put into deletion?
Once they're marked for deletion, there is an automatic script that Bob created to delete them permanently, like item records. But you need to mark them for deletion, especially the provisional record sets.
Just to keep the database clean, if we could remember to delete those when we're done with them, and that way they'll go to the right process. And then Kit said record set deletion, if no one has yet, can we also bring this to PASS and CERC as well? Yes, and we can do that. Thanks, Kit. Okay, next is video game records for different formats. So we've received some tickets, bless you, where a video game item was added to a bib with the wrong video game console type. And so it's really important for the library and for the patron that we have that correct console type. Please make sure to review the wiki. And I don't think I put the link to the wiki where that's at. So I will, in a follow-up, send you guys the link to the wiki that talks about the different video game types and making sure that the preferred or the correct console type is listed in that bib. And then also just be careful when you receive a video game that if there's an existing record that it does match the console type. If not, bring in a new record. I'm looking at Rachel to make sure I got all that information correct. Okay. Oh, and then Orange Boy Savannah. So I'm on the implementation team for Orange Boy Savannah. We are currently in training. We have a training coming up tomorrow. We have 2 more in person and a webinar. Orange Boy is a software as a service. It's online, it's cloud-based. It's pulling in your Polaris data, but it's also going to be pulling in Overdrive, Hoopla, Canopy. We're working on the MyPC, so your PC users, gig counts, and then all of your other e-materials like Scale and EBSCO. So it's going to have a lot of different data sources in one place. It's more of a higher level data source in the sense that you're not going to get title level information. You won't get patron level information. You won't be able to see that Molly checked out this book on this day. So it's different than Simply Reports. And the training is really meant to be an overview of the tool and getting some brainstorming and feedback on ways in which people would want to use it. So if you're not signed up and you're interested, please sign up or at least attend or watch the webinar. If you are not attending a training, you do not have a login yet. So if you would like a login to Orange Boy, just please put in a ticket. All of the permissions are the same. So it's different than like the other tools we use. You get all of the data. So you'll see all of CCS's data, no matter what department you work in. So if you have you yourself or staff that want to use the tool and look at the tool, like I said, put in a ticket and we'll get you a login and a password. We do have an FAQ on our website of what information is currently in there. And we do just want to sort of caution or remind people that it's piecemealed at this time. We're not fully implemented, so we're getting pieces of data as we go. So if you went in there today, you would only see about 3 or 4 months of data, depending on the different places, or if we don't have some of your e-materials, you won't see that information there yet. But just put that out there. And then I didn't put it on here, but we are also, I'm on the BiblioCore. I'm on the BiblioCore team as well, and we are working on getting some of the other resources aligned together before we can go into the next phase, which will be training hopefully in March. Any questions? Or April, March or April. Don't quote me on that.
Sorry. I just wanted to know if the training for Orange Boy is just open to anybody, or is there limits per library? Or
we were asking for 5 members of each library, and really the first wave of trainings for people that are really pulling data regularly, using that data for decision making. So if you have people from your library that have already gone, maybe check in with them and see. And then we have an FAQ on our website that says sort of like who would benefit from this training, this first round of training. This isn't the last amount of training. We're also going to be doing a second wave of training in the summer, and we'll continue to do trainings throughout the year. So there'll be plenty of options for additional training. Karen asked if Orange Boy training sessions would be recorded. The webinar will be recorded. All of the other trainings are in person in the fishbowl, and we're not recording them. Okay, Now I'm going to turn it over to Rachel.
So the next thing on the agenda is my section on the staff report. So I'm going to briefly summarize it and take any questions. The full text of the report is in the packet. The production upgrade is scheduled for March 23rd at 10 p.m. Before the upgrade, we will be having a webinar on what's new in LEAP. This will be on the February 24th at 11 a.m. There's still time that you can register if you haven't yet in L2. The link is in the packet. This really will just be more like a brief overview. I'll be scheduling some more in-depth webinars for cataloging and acquisitions for the end of March so that I have time to provide additional details on the workflow and needs. So the next thing on the agenda is the subject heading. The Library of Congress has approved manual for LCGST. The record is not available yet though. I have updated the wiki and it looks like there's only 22 records that need to be updated. But once we get that new record, I'll be able to update those. I'm sure you've also heard about the issue of Library of Congress stopping the usage of the forum subdivisions, the subfield B. Scrap is still in the process of discussing that and researching that. A lot of libraries are very unhappy with that, as you can imagine. So you can continue to use it as you want to, and I'm sure we'll discuss it more at the next scrap meeting. I just wanted to mention it as a warning that there's going to be a mixture of the quality of records in OCLC. So some records will have that subfield B, because libraries will add it, some will not. I've heard recently at a meeting that the libraries that are participating in SIP cataloging, the CIP cataloging, the cataloging and publication records that are pre-publication records, that add that in, send their records to Library of Congress, and then Library of Congress strips them out. So it's not actually in the pre-publication records when they get sent back to Connection. So just something to watch out for. You'd want to take the mic over there. Before I get to questions, one more thing. I am going to be sending another batch for batch processing to Backstage this week, starting at February 19th. I'll be sending the file at 5 p.m. So we'll get the file back on Friday, and I'll be processing them. So you'll need to follow the restrictions for cataloging starting at 5 p.m. on Thursday through Friday. And you'll be able to catalog as normal on Saturday if anyone works on Saturday. Next question.
I've already seen records in Polaris that do not have subfield B, so there's been no juvenile literature or fiction. What should we be doing?
At this point, if you want to add that in, you're welcome to add that in. We are looking into our options for having Backstage add that in. And we'll be discussing it at our next scrap meeting.
So in the meantime, just whatever.
Yeah, basically. So I understand that your copy catalogers may have different workflows on what they're required to do or what they're not. So at this point, we don't want to require copy catalogers to change their workflows if they don't do any cataloging of subject headings, and it might increase the catalogers that do work on subject headings workload. So this is something that we're considering and discussing. So that was going to be in the scrap report. Any other questions? Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the scrap report. So the link to the minutes and the recording of the January 21st meeting are in the packet. So I'll briefly summarize what we discussed at the meeting. The members reviewed and approved a new page for the Catalogers Wiki that's on the storage cards and storage card players. So this is specifically for Tony Box, Yodo players, and Story Dream Machine. They also discussed issues regarding multi-volume set records at the request of PASS, and we'll continue discussing that at the next meeting. They would like to see how BiblioCore functions before providing any additional feedback to PASS regarding their concerns of multi-volume set records. SCRAP members also discussed the issue of Library of Congress's new policy of not using the fourth subdivision. As I mentioned, they did not vote on any motions or recommendations because they'd like to review the quality of the records in OCLC and learn about our different options for adding the subfield V in if it's not in the record, as well as any changes to PCC policy before making any motions. SCRAP members also discussed the possibility of creating another page for a new format by Playaway called Doodle. So I'm working on that draft of the page. If you haven't heard of that yet, it's like a little speaker without a screen that just plays audio content on specific themes. And the packet also includes a list of Catalogers Wiki pages that were reviewed, and I sent out an email once I already made the updates for those. So the next thing on the agenda is the new page. To vote on a motion to approve the storage cards and storage card players page. Before we move on to voting on the motion, there was a link to that in the packet. Were there any questions or concerns about the text on that page?
Can we get a motion to approve the storage cards and storage card players page on the Cataloging Wiki? Your name? Nancy from Warren Newport. Can I get a second?
Stephanie from Winnetka, second.
Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote, starting with Algonquin.
Looks like Algonquin is absent.
Carrie.
Yes.
Crystal Lake.
Crystal Lake says yes.
Des Plaines. Gila.
Des Plaines said yes.
Ela, yes.
Evanston. Fox River Valley.
Fox River Valley says yes.
Fremont.
Fremont says yes.
Glencoe.
Glencoe is absent.
Glenview.
Glenview says yes.
Grays Lake.
Grays Lake says yes.
Highland Park.
Highland Park says yes.
Huntley.
Huntley is absent.
Indian Trails.
Oh, Huntley says yes. Indian Trails says yes.
Lake Forest.
Yes.
Lake Villa.
Lake Villa says yes.
Lincolnwood.
Lincolnwood says yes.
Henry.
McHenry says yes.
Morton Grove.
Morton Grove says yes.
Mount Prospect.
Mount Prospect says yes.
Niles, Maine.
Niles?
Not present at this time.
Northbrook,
Northbrook says yes.
Palatine, yes.
Palatine says yes.
Parkridge,
Parkridge says yes.
Prospect Heights,
Prospect Heights says yes.
Round Lake,
Round Lake says yes.
Vernon,
Vernon is yes.
Vernon is yes.
okay. Warren Newport,
Warren Newport's yes.
Waukegan,
Keegan is yes.
Wilmette,
Wilmotte's yes.
Winnetka,
Winnetka is yes.
and Zion Benton.
And Benton.
We do have 2 new members, Rolling Meadows and Wakanda. I'm not sure if they're here today, but if they are, they're eligible to vote as well. Rolling Meadows or Wakanda? Thank you.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay. Okay, so we've got 2 demos coming up, and then our meeting will be adjourned. So first is transferring holds when merging multi-volume set records with a single volume. Now, please bear with me. I've worked through this process a few times, but I don't feel like it's perfect. And so I want to open the floor too to other people's practices as we're working through that, because we do have documentation about transferring holds. And I think we probably need to put together some documentation about making this transfer when merging multi-volume sets. So I'm going to get into LEAP, but like I said, at any time, please be like, Molly, that's not the right way to do it, or that's not how I do it. And I'd love to hear other people's ways in which they do this process. Of course, I didn't sign into LEAP before I started. So take 2 minutes to talk amongst yourselves. Or you can watch me. Well, you never know. That is user error, not the technology. Say that. Okay, so in training, I put together a little scenario that's probably not very common, hopefully, but maybe it is. So let me pull up a record. So I believe this question's coming because, and please correct me, Rachel, if I'm wrong. This question's coming in because we have instances where a multi-volume record is being used where an individual record should be used. Yes, Rachel's shaking her head, yes, correct. Okay, so the individual record needs to be merged with the multi-volume. So I set up this example of the Lord of the Rings. Don't know if anyone else loves them as much as I do. One of my faves. Okay, and so this is actually a multi-volume set record that I found that has the different volumes listed here. And what I did was I threw some item records on there as well with some holds. I'm gonna pull this down so it's a little easier to see. Now I'm like a little nervous because you guys are the specialists on this and I want to make sure I do it right. Okay, so if I go into here, you can see I've got my different items. I can go and look at my holds queue, and there are a number of holds. Someone named Molly, some test patrons also put some holds. So what we want to do is move, first of all, just move this hold off of this particular item and into a different item. So what we're going to have to do is click on the all hold request and click the item, and then we're going to transfer. Now you're going to need to transfer it to the correct item. Let me see if nope, I will find it. So you're going to need to transfer it. So if you know the title, if you know, I'm just going to go back real quick, make sure I grab the right title, the one I wanted. Rings. Okay. So I will go ahead and I'll grab whichever one I want to transfer. I do need to pick a bib to transfer it to. And I want to find a book volume. Okay. We're going to pretend like that's the right book. Okay. Okay, so once the transfer is made, it can't be undone. So it's going to say, do you really want to transfer this request? So then I'm going to transfer that request, and that's been transferred. Easy peasy? So far? No? Tell me what I need to do. That's a good question. Let's get the microphone going so we can hear the discussion.
If you open up an item record and then do action hold, it puts it on that, and it will give you a thing of just this item or anything, you know, or any item will fulfill this. And if you want just that item, you say yes. Barcode. In staff does it. I don't know if patrons can do it. Well, how about on the app? I think on the app maybe.
You can put, say you want volume 2 of this series, graphic novels. Which item, what library is coming? That, not choose those items. You're choosing a group of items, and they'll send you the one. Actually,
though, on the app, if you're putting a volume on hold and say we do V.1 and another library does VOL.1, if you're in the app, you'll see all those options. So you are picking an individual.
That's because they didn't put them in.
Well, I'm just saying, but they can't, you can, yeah. But they are grabbing an individual item.
That's one. Other than that, traveling.
Oh, yeah, that's why I was like, you might want to.
Right, but if they're doing Vol.1, they're getting that item.
I get it.
If there's only one, yeah, one, yeah.
Yeah, but I also know you like to later. Exactly, that's why I'm like, well, I'll try that. You know, at least you know, okay, well,
right.
Because when I saw the description of their longer, I was like, That's why that is.
Oh, so they don't get this message like we get.
That's why I was like, I'm debating between small and medium. I have to.
I'm going to interrupt just really quick. If you're online with us, can you please mute? Sorry, it's hard to hear other discussion. So it sounds like there's a discussion back and forth between
No, it is unusual, but
between how items are getting requested. If it's in LEAP and it's at this level, like when I go to place this hold, it's asking me, do I have first available copy or this particular item only? That's one instance. That's in LEAP.
Where I do see it happen in the pack is if there is incorrectly an item that does not have a volume and other libraries do have volumes, and basically the patron does have to pick which copy they want, and I will see those show up on the item hold list, which, you know, when I review that every week and correct the incorrect hold. Item holds, usually it's staff who have placed them, but occasionally we get one from the pack, and that is, I believe, how it's happening. But I think how you transfer a hold, I mean, it doesn't really matter. You transfer the hold, it's the same no matter how the hold is placed.
Okay, so this is the issue that I run into all the time, is our acquisitions people will order like volume 5 of a manga and put it on its own on order record. I get it. I need to merge this volume 5 into the multi-volume, but the volume 5 by itself record has a hold on it. So now I have to transfer the hold to make sure that it doesn't go from a title level hold on volume 5 to a title level hold on the multi-volume record. I need to transfer it to make it a volume 5. If the hold is not for an Indian Trails patron, Polaris will not show me volume 5 as an option because we don't loan our stuff out of system for 30 days. So because this item will not trap that hold for 30 days, it will not show me volume 5 as an option if we're the only ones who have it.
I told you I was excited about the conversation coming out of this and especially happy to have all the specialists in the room.
Nancy from Warren, I ran into them many times. So I used to create a dummy volume 5 record on the multi-volume record to transfer the hold to volume 5. Then I realized recently, actually, all I need to do is to take note of these patrons or hold, and then I transfer my volume 5, I merge it with a multi-volume record, and then I go to the hold queue, and I open each hold, say transfer. I put that control number from the BIP record, and then converting it, it lets me select the volume. So I open the holds in the multi-volume records. I open the hold, it says transfer, I put the BIP control number, and then it asks me if I want to put it on a specific volume. And because my volume 5 is there now, I can do that. So I transfer the hold after I merge. Is it clear? It's easier to see it than to explain it. Oh, I do that in LEAP all the time. Yeah. In the client, I used to do it when I did the merging of deduping records. I didn't get to try it. But it's probably the same. As far as you move your volume, then you can transfer the whole bit from the bib to a volume in the same bib.
Because it's not an Indian Trails patron, so it won't show me volume 5 as an option because our item will not trap that member's hold if they're not an Indian Trails patron.
Because of us, like a 30-day embargo situation?
Yeah, if there's like another library or multiple other libraries that this member, is a patron of that library or that don't have that 30-day embargo, then it'll show me. And I can send it. But what happens a lot is that we're the only library that has this volume. It's not an Indian Trails patron that placed the hold. Because we have the 30-day embargo, Polaris will not show me volume 5 as an option.
I see. Tammy, we've got a...
Sorry, so you mean the other library patron could place a hold on your volume 5 on your BIP record, but they cannot place a hold on your volume record?
If volume 5 is already attached to the multi-volume record, other library patrons can place a hold on it themselves. What I can't do is transfer a hold from a volume 5 record to volume 5 on a multi-volume record.
Oh.
If we're the only ones who have it and it's not an Indian Trails patron that placed the hold, it will not show me volume 5.
So can I just want to make sure I understand. And I do want to go back and listen to the transcript later to get all the information. So somewhere an item has been ordered and it's a volume and it's on a single volume record, whereas it should be on a multi-volume record.
Yes.
Right. Because it's on a single volume record, someone is able to place a hold even though you guys usually put an embargo.
No. Somebody will put a hold on the volume 5 individual record. But when they do that, it's a title level hold, not a volume level hold, because the record is only for volume 5. So when I combine those two, I need to change that from a title level hold, which will get them volume 1 through whatever on a multi-volume record, to a volume 5 specific hold so that they get the volume 5 they want. But if it's not an Indian Trails patron, and we're the only ones who have it, because of that 30-day embargo, Polaris will not show me volume 5 as an option because our volume will not trap their hold for 30 days.
Well, this is a much bigger question than I thought I was walking into, but I'm loving the conversation. Rachel, do you have any thoughts? I'm going to put you on the spot.
It's an awkward workflow, and there's other issues that Polaris has had with holds, like the barcode issue. So if we want to make a change, we just need to submit an idea exchange item on it.
I had a question. Was it that other libraries didn't receive their copies of Volume 5 yet, but they still have on order item records? Or is it that nobody else has ordered Volume 5 yet?
Frequently, it's because we're the only library that owns this title. So no other library has it. In some cases, other libraries have their Volume 5 on the Volume 5 individual record, but they also have an embargo of however many days, 30 days or 90 days. And if the member is not a patron of those libraries, it still won't show me Volume 5 as an option because those items will not trap this person's hold.
Kathy, would you like to chime in here?
I have a question because I thought when you put your embargo on your holds, because if I'm remembering the hold checkboxes right, if it's holdable but by patrons in your library for those 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever embargo period your library chooses, doesn't that mean patrons from other libraries can't put holds on that bib record?
Yeah, so that item record, I just pulled up an item record and it's got the loanable outside the system, holdable, and it says patrons from this branch 90 days. Does that mean that at an item level record, you could still place that hold?
You can still place the hold, it just won't trap for 90 days.
The bid record, item record, different.
Right.
Anybody can put a hold on a bid record. Only specific patrons can usually.
So what I'm hearing is...
I mean, that's not technically true either.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is because if we have a collection that's very new to us and we want to keep it for our patrons only for a year until we build the collection up, and we just have it holdable for our patrons only, what I'm hearing then based on this discussion is anyone in the system can still place holds on that title, even though my items will never fulfill it until we determine that we're going to change that. So then what happens with these orphan holds? I mean, this is not a good process.
It depends on what your items specifically say. So if your items are new for 90 days or whatever this example is, then for 90 days, unless it's your patron they can't get that item unless another library adds an item that they can
I'm
get
not
it in 30
talking
days.
about that. I'm talking about specific items where we have a small collection like our Yodo cards. Our Yodo cards do not interlibrary loan. They don't get set. They're cataloged. That the item record itself doesn't fill those holds, is only local patron holds. So does that mean if I'm not sending, someone from Crystal Lake can put my item on hold even though they will never get it until we determine we have enough of them to make them eligible for interlibrary loan within CCS? This is what I'm asking.
Kathy, I don't know if this helps.
Yeah, the answer is yes, but then go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if this helps, but at Palatine we do run what we call the troubled holds report. I think that's what it's called in web reports every week, and it will give us a report of, like, as you called it, those orphan holds that just can't be filled. You know, whether it's due to a 30-day embargo or because something is missing at a library, and we just go through. The selectors go through and they just cancel those holds, or they offer to fill them through interlibrary loan or whatever. That's what we do. That's our solution to it.
Kathy, you can also in your item record just check the box that it's loanable or holdable to other libraries, and that should also flag up on the reports. So that might also help you with your hold issue.
Well, but that's how I'm cataloging them, that they won't fill holds for other libraries. So if they're not going to fill it, can the patron still place the hold on the bib record is what I'm asking.
If it displays in the pack, yes. But would that be something in the future that we could discuss?
I appreciate everyone's input.
Yeah, staff gets a message that says, this hold will not be filled. Do you want to continue? And we've had a problem with some staff saying, sure. So that's exactly what happens. It just becomes that troubled or orphan hold. But
Yeah.
staff does get a message saying it won't be filled.
I think the biggest problem with those is the staff override in LEAP. But the PAC will not allow patrons to place the hold on something that they're not allowed to.
But again, if your staff are placing a hold, if your staff are overriding it, then that's why it creates that troubled or that lost orphaned hold.
Yeah.
Right. The time frame does allow patrons to place holds. It just won't get filled until after it's up. But if it says no patrons can place a hold from a different library, then it will block the patron in the pack, but the staff can do an override in LEAP.
So the libraries should be have patrons from this library only.
Ross, please say it one more time with the microphone.
So if, like the Yoda cards or library things, if we call it, if you want to have it click that patrons from this library only and don't put a time frame in, then patrons from other libraries cannot put holds on those things. It's the graphic novels that are going to be coming available. They can put holds on that title, but the problem with that title is then it moves because we're merging that volume 5 into the full series. Then you have to do something so that you know that, well, they wanted volume 5, we hope. That's what they thought because that's what they were choosing to put a hold on, and you need to connect it to that then.
And Kit said, as a patron, they place holds on embargoed items all the time and wait until the embargo is over to get the item, which was the whole point of the embargo, the ability to place a hold on an item whenever versus not being able to place a hold at all until the library's embargo is lifted. One more time.
Why does it not work when you're transferring holds then? If
What's the it?
If patrons from other libraries are able to put something on hold, even if it can't be filled for a while because of an embargo, just because of that date in there, then why is it that when we transfer the hold, it's not allowed?
What I'm hearing, and I'm going to look at the specialist in the room, but what I'm hearing is that depending, if it's placed on an item level record, but you're transferring it onto a bib, that's not going to work? Is that what I'm? No, other way around. Sorry. Other way around. So I'm going to back up.
So if there's a multi-volume record, so we're just going to leave the transfer out right now. If there's a multi-volume record and I still have an embargo on my items for 30 days, a patron can go in the pack and place volume 4 on hold, but they're not going to get my item for 30 days. Why is it that when we add volume 5, when we transfer that over, we don't have that option on the staff side then?
So my understanding, again, may be wrong, but so I have the bib for volume 5 and I'm merging it onto the multi-volume. As long as I put in the item record, B period space 5 or whatever, it has to then match with the other volume 5s. And if people have put volume 5 on hold, it will connect, or it bloody better connect to the other volume 5s. So you're taking that bib that was there for the individual item disappears. And that volume 5 is just as if you're taking the item and putting it in there. And it should, because it says B period 5 and it comes in new, the hold should say, hey, there's another volume 5. Let's grab that one. That was my understanding of how it worked, but I haven't monkeyed around with it to try to break it or anything.
So my understanding is, like Molly's example was showing, if you're taking a book or item off the multi-volume record and putting it on its own record. But when we put one on its own record onto the multi-volume, there's not a problem with transferring holds. It does it automatically. It should, but it's when we're taking it off the multi-volume. Because I think there's been a problem with the multi-volume records being created that really should have been single records, especially for the graphic novels. Is that correct?
There is a problem with that, yeah.
So it seems like it's building a bigger conversation between hold, multi-volume records, and single.
Well, see, if you're moving it from an item-specific hold on a multi-volume record to an individual record, it's not going to be an issue because you're going to be making it a title level hold.
Right.
It's trying to get it from a title level hold on volume 5 to an item specific hold on the multi-volume record, and it will not let me do it if the only one available has that embargo and the patron is not a member of that library that owns that item. But it won't let me transfer the hold is the problem. Yes, I know, but if I transfer the volume 5 from the volume 5 record to the multi-volume record and then go to transfer the hold, it will not show me that volume 5. Yes, that's not the problem. That's not the problem.
So So there is a lot of conversation going on that we're missing for our online participants. I'm going to ask, can we send another, we have a comment over here and then we can come back over here.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like, is the problem that you just need to make sure that you have the volume number in the preliminary record before you like transfer it to the multi-volume record? Because then that way it sounds like it should follow if the volume number is in the preliminary record where the hold is.
It does not. It goes from a title level hold on volume 5 to a title level hold on the multi-volume record, which will trigger the first thing that gets checked in.
Sorry.
Okay, we're going to do just, so Kit made a point that I think is good. It sounds like, unfortunately, this might be an Idea Lab situation where maybe Rachel and I can dig a little bit deeper into this now that we have a better understanding and see if this is something that is like a bug in the system or an Idea Lab situation. So I'm going to say, let's take like 2 more comments, bless you, and then we'll move on to our next demo.
Kathy, I can do that. I can also delete the patron's hold and replace it after moving the volume 5. But that's a lot of work that I would not want to do if I could just transfer it from one to the other.
So Kathy said, would it work to create an item on the multi-volume record without the embargo period, move the hold, merge the records, then remove the placeholder item? And that sounds like a yes, but it's a lot of work.
Our on-order records for graphic novels, they have the volume number in the volume field, even though they're single records. So if a patron places a hold, they had to select volume 5. Then when we transfer our volume 5 to the multi-volume, it's already a volume hold. Will that help in any way?
That's what I was trying to.
Okay, so yeah, it sounds like we need to dig a little bit deeper into this. Rachel, do you have any final words on this one? No? Okay, so we'll dig a little bit deeper. Thank you so much. I knew my example was going to be a little blundery, but I love the conversation that came out of it, and hopefully we can uncover something that we can find a better workflow for. Okay, I am going to turn it over to our last agenda item, which is a demo. John's going to do a short keys demo for us.
I'm going to have to shout.
Computer. Okay. No, wait, do you have to make me? Share, you can share your entire screen. Okay.
Rachel, I think we have to use this. It's too, I think it's going to be too echoey otherwise. Okay. I can.
Okay.
So John, why don't you unmute or mute yours again, and I'll hold the mic for you.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. See if you press OK here. Do you need to do your audio there?
Okay, well, audio, we want it.
Yours, right? Okay, so we're just getting set up. Just one more minute for the folks that aren't in the room.
Okay, so this is about short keys, which is a standalone program that works sort of like text strings and connection type of characters, usually a slash and a letter or a number, and it replaces it with longer. However, it can do so much more than just string of plain text. It can actually do things. I'll show you how to do that. So,
Can you?
Okay.
We're going to try to make it better.
This is old school lavalier mic. Okay, so I have the client open, and this will all be in the client because this is where I spend my day. So, so you can do a slash and a letter or a number. I'm going to do L for login. So I created a short key, /L, and I just logged in. So it's not just text. It can do things to the client. It can't do mouse clicks, but it can do other things. And the way you get that to work is you need to learn some of the tricks that Windows offers. So I have two windows open now in the client. The one that is full color, that is on top, it has focus. Officially it's called in focus. This window has focus, the one above it does not. So this is the one we're working on. Within this window, there are many objects. One of them has focus, and that's this because it's highlighted. So now I'm going to click on it. You could also hit enter. So I'm just going to hit enter. So my goal here is to avoid the mouse whenever possible. Fun Windows trick, works in every program. Windows key, up arrow, will maximize the window in focus. Also, in Polaris, if you do control and mouse wheel, it will make it bigger, but it resets when you close the window, so it's not all that helpful. So now I'm going to go to the item window, Control T. I'll explain that later, and I will make it bigger. So here we have a list. We have a window. It has a list box officially, and one of the items has focus. It's blue. So I'm going to hit enter. So now we're in the item record that we all recognize. It's not easy to see, but the barcode field, there is a vertical line before the 3. That indicates that that object in the window has focus. So I can start typing because that has focus. Now to move through this window to other objects, use tab. So I hit tab, and it skips over record status, interlibrary loan, and e-content because they're read-only. So it goes to the next object that you can use. This is called tab order. The people who designed this had to program it manually, which is good news, bad news. You can do whatever you want, but if you forget, it can be not great. If anybody remembers workflows, the tab order was ridiculous. Tabbing through that screen was silly. This is actually good. So the object that now has focus is non-circulating because it has a box around it. Again, this is hard to see, but so a checkbox can be checked or unchecked. You can do that with the space bar. Tab over display and pack, same thing. Next tab is the find button. You can see it has a blue bar around it. You hit enter, it will open the find box. Another Windows trick, this works in all programs. Alt F4 closes the active window. Now we're back to the find button. We hit tab. The control number is a text box. You can type in it. Parent item. Price. Price is formatted as currency. So if you just type 15 and hit save, Control S, it will automatically format it to currency. You don't have to put the $ in or the cents or anything. So I hit save. So now we're back up at barcode. Tab, 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 tab. Price. Now we're over to owner. Assigned, I'm down to assigned. You can see it's got a box around it and hard to see. So this is a drop-down list. You can do a couple of things here. You can use arrows to go up and down. You can use page up and page down, home and end, or you could just start typing D displays. Same deal with collection. I want to make this multimedia. I'm going to type M. Oh, well, magazines is first, so then I am going to type M twice. It brings you to your second M. I'm going very fast, by the way. I will send out an email with all of this. Circulation status. Oh, we're up to shelf location. I'm going to put it on the second floor. I type 2. I'm going to change this to repair, R. And you get the idea here. So the renewal limit, that's called a picker. And you can do a couple things in there. You can do arrow up and arrow down, or you could just type the number, whatever you want. So drop downs here, back to text boxes. We know what to do with. Now we're at check boxes. You can check on and off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When you get to the bottom, you wind up back at the top. You can also go around backwards by using Shift Tab. So now there's, okay. So anyway, Alt F4 to close. You can see yes, no, cancel. The yes button is now active. And you can hit enter. I'm going to hit tab and go over to no, enter. So I did all that without using the mouse. Short keys cannot deal with the mouse, so it can only do keystrokes. It can only do what I just did. And so you create short keys there. And the program lives in your tray. And you can see there's a whole bunch of ones, and I'll show you how to do it. So here's a simple one. Okay, so search bib record. I'm doing a bib search. Changed my mind. I want to change to item. So I created one that's /I. So what it did was, I did shift. So the focus is on the search box. So shift tab, shift tab, shift tab, shift tab, I, tab, 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 tab. That's what your short key would be. And I can show that here. And so there it is. Shift tab, shift tab, shift tab, I for item, tab, 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 tab. So you create, and so usually it's a slash. You can pick other characters, but most people use a slash. So when you type /I, it does this, and it did that in the window. Now, one of the neat things it can do is scope. By default, it runs in all windows. You usually don't want that because you don't want your short keys running in Word. You're typing in Word, and then you type /2, and then it does something weird. So here you tell it the name of the window, and it lists all the windows you have open, and you only want this, for this one, you only want it in the bib record, changing bib search. So you're changing bib search to item search, and then it's there, Polaris ILS. And you work with that because the window will change based on the release. But the name, so what you would want to do is, now I'm using this. Now, this bib records, it says bib records, all keyword fields. I'm checking. And it's right there, bibliographic records. And you can truncate it to just bibliographic records. Things may change, whatever. So now it only works in that window. So that does two things. One, as I said, it's not going to work in another program that you wanted to. But also, you can reuse letters and numbers to work in different places. So for example, /L for login, you can use that in 8 different programs based on the title of the window. So one of the things I did was, and so F3 for search. You get the idea. You put your barcode in, that's super easy. One of the most annoying things is when you go to check out your hold, you get a box that says, you have a hold. Yeah, I know. You can have it override that by telling it to say yes to that window. There are a couple more things that, a couple more tricks here. So also in Windows, up here in these menus, there are some additional help. So save is Control S. We all know Control C for copy, Control V for paste, Control S for save. That works in most programs. Here it actually tells you. And so these all work too. So N, so I want to, like we got a magazine change titles yesterday. So Control N, new, and I'm going to type serial, I typed S twice, serial holdings record, enter, and off you go. Oops, oops. So also in here, there's a thing called hotkeys. And when you hit the Alt key on your keyboard, you can see, and I'm pointing at the screen, that's helping. You can see that there's one letter of each of file, edit, view, links, tool, and help. You can see there's a one letter underlined. If you type any of those letters, you will move to that drop-down. So if I hit V for view, and now you're there. And now you have a list, and you can either use your arrows up and down, or there's letters there, S for statistics. So this is two things. Part of this is about short keys, where you can program repetitive tasks. But even if you don't use short keys, you can avoid the mouse by using all these Windows tricks. So one of the things I do every day after lunch is to go through our record set. So search, /I. Oh, another one I like is /C for call number. So I have that SQL saved. And it goes through and does all this. Radio buttons work with arrows. They're up and down, or up and down arrows if they're up and down, left and right arrows. So also, I'm hitting the Alt key, and now the S in search is activated. So Alt S will always work for search. As I was saying, after lunch, I go through our record sets. So not a lot, but so this is, I'm changing from new to old. So we have a list, Control A to select all, Control B for bulk change. I'm going to click here, shelf location, tab, 3, enter, 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 Control A to select all, Control R to remove, Control S to save, Alt F4 to close, arrow up. And so here, this is fourth floor change. So select Control A, select all, Control B, bulk change. This time I want to use a template. The OK button at the bottom has the focus. So tab to go back up to the top. Now we're at the template drop down, arrow. Oops. There we go. Arrow down to fourth floor, enter, enter, enter. Control A, Control R, S, Alt F4. I'm going to run this SQL again just to see what happened. Alt S, and those two that I did disappear. That was super fast. I think I left a couple of things out, but you get the idea. If you use the Windows tricks, even if you don't use short keys, you can still avoid the mouse. It has been suggested that using a mouse causes carpal tunnel. I find using the keyboard is far more precise than a mouse because you're not aiming for these tiny icons. You know, this is maximized. Like
Or I could just do, I will send out a list of the most common tricks.
Thank you, John. Anybody have any questions?
You'll be able to adjust it to yours. I can't. Oh, I don't think you can log into the meeting. Yes, I will send it.
One more question in the back.
I've been trying to create a short key to unselect all the branches and then just select the Evanston branches. You can't hear me?
Short key to unselect all the branches except for Evanston.
So what you want to do here, you have to play with it and write it down. So I'm going to do Alt and just tab to see where it goes. Records set. Oh, no. So we want to go to branches. So right arrow, right arrow. Oh, see now, put it in renewal limits. So then you got a tab. This is where it gets a little hairy, but just tab, tab, tab. Oops, I went too far. There, branch. Okay. Yep. Okay. So, okay. So Alt, tab, tab, right arrow, right, and then now it's tab, 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 right arrow, tab, 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 right arrow. This is fascinating. Tab, branches. Now, unselect all. You can do Alt U, and then I would Shift Tab or Tab, Tab. Let's see what happens. Arrow down, Shift Tab, paste. And yeah, and this is bad programming. You should be able to tab back.
So,
I mean, you got that far. You know, it unchecked all and puts you at Evanston. So it's better than nothing.
so maybe a few limitations, but definitely some workarounds if people don't want to use their mouse. Awesome. Okay, any final thoughts before we wrap up this meeting today? Thank you, John.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Warren motions to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Parkridge seconds.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. I think it would go that way.